Well, the final weekend of the season has arrived in the Junior B Tier 1 circuit, and let me tell you, all is still to play for up and down the entirety of the standings. We'll touch on that and much more here on the Junior Beast on NetFront Sports.
And that's going to be stopped by Carpenter. Rebound comes out, another one, he stops it.
Third in the net, Twister, 5-hole scores.
Couldn't quite find the shot, but he'll get the jumping leap and put it in. Wow. Bobbing and weaving inside, quick shot, they score.
Isaac Nickel all by himself. This is one that scores. Isaac Nickel.
Look to get a goal here, maybe Edmondson scores!
Welcome back to the Junior Beast podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my co-host Eric. Welcome back to the Junior Beast.
No, thanks for having me.
I don't know why I keep saying welcome back to the Junior Beast to you. Like I said last week, you're my co-host. It's just plain and simple now.
Hey, we can keep it going for the bit. It's fine.
So we're entering the final week of the season. As I mentioned, there's still kind of everything up in the air. Listen, I'll get to you shortly for a breakdown of some of the scenarios, and I know we were talking about this just before going into the recording, and I can't believe how many actual scenarios there are, but essentially we're looking at the seeding of 3-4 in the north, and it's the fourth seed in the south that it all comes down to here in the final weekend of action.
Yes, so in the north, it's pretty simple. We have the Outlaws with 10 points sitting in fourth spot with 2 games to play. The Rampage sitting in third spot with 12 points and 2 games to play. Outlaws play the Warriors tonight at time of recording, so by the time you watch this tomorrow, those scenarios could be closed shut. Pretty simple here. Rampage have a 2-game set against the SWAT this weekend, I believe, and they win both those games. They continue with the third seed into the playoffs and will face the Warriors. The Warriors sitting in second firmly. They cannot change. Neither can first seed. So we're just figuring out who's going to be playing these guys on the road in the North playoffs. So Outlaws beat the Warriors and then beat the Crude final win or final game of the season. They can leapfrog the Rampage.
As long as the Rampage lose one of those two.
Yes, like as long as the Rampage lose one of those two. If the Outlaws win one and the Rampage go 0-2, there's a bunch of tiebreaker scenarios we'd have to go through that I don't have at the time of recording. But yeah, Rampage, they control their own destiny. They beat the SWAT twice. They will be in third seed heading into North semifinals.
And that would result in Rebels, Outlaws, and Warriors Rampage for the first round matchups in the North.
Yes, nothing can change. The Rebels will be hosting and the Warriors will be hosting home floor in the North semifinals. And then moving on to the South. The South is a lot more fun. We have so there's 21 possible scenarios for this, which is absolutely crazy at this point in the season. 6 games left. Easiest scenario possible. Mounties go 2-0. They clinch. They're at 24 points. Silvertips and Mavericks can't catch them. Move down to another scenario. Mounties go 1-0-1. So if they throw a tie in there somewhere, these are just all possible outcomes. It doesn't really say who, in what game they get the tie. If the Mounties go 1-0-1, the Mounties will clinch and the Silvertips and Mavericks will fight for the last spot. If Mounties finish on 22 points, it gets a lot more messier. Mounties finish on 21. Gets a lot more messier. And then the Mounties lose both. If Mounties lose both, they will be essentially done, as both teams, the Silvertips and the Mavericks, would need to not reach 21 points, which is unlikely since they play each other. Every possible final outcome, there's 21 on here. I'm not going to go through all of them. There is a chance for a 3-way tie at 22 points. That would be gross. Let's not do that. The key takeaway, though, the Mavericks play both the Mounties and the Silvertips. They control a large part of the race. Mavericks go 2-0. Every point they earn comes directly at the expense of another contender.
And that basically seals the deal.
Yes. Biggest thresholds are for 23 points for anybody guarantees you a playoff spot. 22, there's a 3-way tie that can get really gross. 20 points, very unlikely to be enough. So that's not possible. Even we're using Chat GPT to figure out all these outcomes because there's so many. It says 20 points, not possible, like very unlikely to be enough. 20 points is impossible as the Mounties and the Mavericks do play each other. I guess there is the gross chance that they tie. We're not really going to take ties into account here. I do have the statistical playoff percentages for each team. Again, this is not it's not using like head-to-head statistics on like who's likely to win or anything like that. It's just a pure playoff percentage point to get into the playoffs. The Mounties have a chance to finish 4th or better at 63.4%. Silvertips 48.8%, and the Mavericks at 37.8%. So yeah, the Mounties clearly have a little bit of advantage because they have the 1 point advantage there. That game Saturday against the Mavericks Mounties, if you have a way to watch that game any way possible, I would watch that. Obviously, that's a huge game when it comes to playoff implications here in the South. And then it's just tough schedules for all those teams remaining. Mavericks have it the easiest way. They play the 2 people above them, so if they win both their games they're in. Shamrocks play the Silvertips. That's a tough draw for the Silvertips at this point of the season. And then the Mounties play the Marauders. Also a very tough draw for them at this point in the season, as that is your 1 and 3 seeds, as the Marauders have fallen to the 3rd seed as the Chill, with a win last weekend over them in overtime. Electric call by Anand on our network, by the way. The Chill currently sit in 2nd spot in the South.
Yeah, and like I know that some people might get a bit freaked out when you say Chat GPT. I mean, listen, you and we sat down for like half an hour before recording this trying to figure it out, and our human brains could not comprehend it, so we had to turn to AI to try and figure it out. So I know that some people don't like AI, but it has more of a brain than our 2 combined on trying to figure out all the different scenarios.
Many times, yes.
So, as Eric mentioned, the Chill and the Marauders, they played each other last weekend, where the Chill would squeak out the 10-9 victory in overtime. And funnily enough, barring a complete miracle of events, this is the actual only set matchup in the South Division, which I think is going to be an absolute barn burner of a series. I think Chill and Marauders is going to be great. But we did get a chance earlier this week to sit down with Okotoks Marauders head coach Geoff Thompson. Well, today here on the Junior Beast, we are joined by very special guest, head coach of the Okotoks Marauders, Geoff Thompson. Welcome to the podcast, Geoff.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate the invite.
Well, Geoff, before we kind of jump into the questions that we got going for you, one question that we do like to ask kind of everybody that comes onto the podcast off the hop here, how you got your start in lacrosse and how you started coaching?
Oh, starting lacrosse. Well, it goes way back. My dad played member of the Green Gales in the early 60s there. So I've had a stick in my hands ever since, I was a little one. Came up through in Huntsville, Ontario is where I grew up, and played my minor there, and junior in Ontario as well. And then went out to BC to play in the WLA there. Once that... once the body broke down enough and lacrosse was finished, and found myself here in Alberta, I just had an opportunity to get into coaching with the Axeman Lacrosse Club here in Calgary, and met our current general manager, Steve Harlow, through that. Joined him to work with a few of the guys with the Junior Roughnecks program, and then joined the Marauders. I guess I'm in year 3 here now with the Marauders.
Awesome. That is a absolutely great path to coaching.
Yeah, I've been around the game for a while, and just love being around the guys, and hopefully helping them grow as lacrosse players, and just good people in general.
All right, Geoff. Well, my name's Eric Kraus. Just want to introduce myself to you, and first off, congratulate you on how successful the Marauders have been this season. So
yeah, thank you.
Just my question is, every successful team seems to develop its own identity over the course of a season. When you look at this Marauders group compared to where they were back in, let's say, training camp, what do you think has become the team's identity, and what are you most proud of in terms of how the group has grown?
Well, I think, from an identity perspective, this group has just really come together. They've created their own dressing room culture, which is a really positive thing. Really welcomed new players, rookies, free agents into the group. And I think when you have that kind of camaraderie, that really helps ease things throughout the season. Going back to where we started, obviously things get ramped up in early January with floors, and you've got a lot of players coming in and out, whether it's through school or drafts, free agency, etc. We've really just worked towards a culmination of continued growth here. So really focusing on good habits as we move through the season, and always learning opportunities out there for us. So really making sure the details of our game are solid, and we obviously want to ensure that translates and as we head into the playoffs here.
Yeah, and you said like kind of learning and translating into playoffs. I mean, at this point of the season, we're into the final week. The South Division's been absolutely stacked. I mean, you look at it today as of recording, and all 6 teams would be sitting at worst second in the North Division. Has the talent in the competition in the South this year, has it kind of resulted in, maybe your coaching needing slight adjustments to contend with some of the other clubs, or needing to practice a little bit differently? I mean, I know we're still in the heat of the season. You don't have to get into specifics, but just kind of curious if there's something that you kind of have to do different to contend with that.
Yeah, once realignment happened, I mean, first and foremost, I was excited for it. I just think the competition, as you guys have alluded to, is really strong here in the South, and all teams are very well coached. So we have to be consistently looking for new ways to go about things, trying to communicate at a high level with all of our players, and just ensuring that we're doing the extra little details. Obviously, you guys have the games on NetFront each week, which is great. We can utilize some of that for film as well as our own internal film, and I think really just drilling down on some of those areas where we feel we can harness our strengths and take that to teams as we hit the floor each game.
Well, I know like we're currently entering the last weekend of the regular season. You guys and the Chill, absolute dead heat, 24 points each, 16 games played. You guys in this final weekend have 2 pretty tough South Division matchups knocking on your door. The Chill heading out to I believe it's Regina this weekend, ahead of their final 2. And it seems like we're essentially just about to cross paths right into a Marauders Chill first round, barring a major turn of events. So my question is, how do you prepare for a team that you're in the head-to-head? I mean, on paper, you're 0-2 against them. But last weekend, we saw a very tight matchup of the Marauders and the Chill that resulted in an overtime loss. So what does the preparation go into, knowing that, you got to play these guys at least twice? You're hoping you beat them in 2, let's be honest. But a potential 3-game series that's going to be very hard-hitting and very tough.
Yeah. No game is easy in the South Division this year. In preparation, don't necessarily know where things are going to fall, but a tough one yesterday against the Chill. And kudos to them. They came out and played a good game. And ultimately, got the win in overtime. So we just want to continue to up the ante on those details in our game, creating good habits on the floor, identifying the areas where we think we can, offensively be putting the ball in the net, and just the key details going out our back gate and in transition as well.
Junior B is such an interesting level because you're trying to win lacrosse games, but you also have players that want to develop and maybe go on to the next level, like for example, Junior A. How do you personally balance those 2 goals throughout a season? And what do you hope your players take away from playing under you as a coach and being a Marauder when their career is over?
Yeah, one of the big things I talk about is, being in centers like Ontario and BC, there's always opportunity after junior lacrosse. And I just hope that players look at that and all different avenues that potentially they could be playing either in different markets or taking the next step into senior lacrosse or even potentially pro lacrosse. There's no reason why players can't develop their skills into those levels, and I think you're starting to see a lot more of that. We see it obviously in junior B regularly, but also junior A. And from my perspective, we're a developmental league, also focusing on our own success, but I really appreciate when we see guys that get to move from our roster into the junior A league, and also the ones that can come down and further develop and take that as an opportunity. I think that's a big piece to that puzzle. That coming down to junior B may be tough at the beginning, but it creates an opportunity to grow, develop, and build out their game so that they can get back into those junior A lineups.
Your team has separated itself for sure as being like the highest scoring offense in the league this year. From a coaching perspective, what makes this group so difficult to defend? Is it the veteran talent you have, the chemistry that's been built over multiple seasons? For example, I know Erickson and Dunbar have been there for a few years now, or is there something else you think that has allowed this offense to be so explosive?
It's a really dynamic and talented group, and you really want that to translate on the floor. And I think the players have definitely done that. Shout out to Jacob Harlow as well, who's been our offensive coach. I coached him in my first year, and he came on the bench last year and this year to focus on the offense. And he's done a great job. But also, the players, they take accountability, and that translates onto the floor. And, some of them have been together for a few years here. Benny and Drew specifically, but also Lyric Kluch. Reese Morris has had a strong season after coming off a strong training camp. And, he had a few seasons with some injuries, and his game's really translated on the floor. And also adding in our rookies, we talked about the culture there of how our players bring in guys and accept them and work with them. And some of our younger guys, Landry Mitten, Tate Bungay, Seth Garofalo, Cruz Kluch, and Dallin Blake, they've all come in and stepped right into the lineup this year and done a great job for us. So, it's a 5-man unit every time we go out on the floor. And if they approach it that way and, ball movement's key, moving that ball east to west, getting to the tough parts of the floor, that's where those goals are going to result in. And, touching on Benny and Drew, you got two of the better outside shooters in the league. So, it's definitely a dynamic offensive group, which has allowed us to, utilize some other players in different ways this year, such as Owen Williams, Frank Gallup, and our captain, Blake Robinson, who've really been able to step in, support us out the back gate and in transition as well.
I know in previous years here on the Junior Beast, we've kind of talked about, once we're into playoff season, is the Marauders in the previous couple of years, it seems like they're on a great path, and then there's just something in the playoffs that doesn't click or something like that. And I'm just curious from your perspective of now having experienced a couple of years of, heartbreak in that first round and getting a little bit further each time. And with kind of that entire group that you have built there in Okotoks, heading into the playoffs and knowing those kind of, I don't want to necessarily call them disappointments, but, the disappointments of the last couple of years of losing out in round one, just the mentality heading into the playoffs, just with that kind of, does that stick in the back of your mind, or is that like the past is the past sort of thing?
Yeah, it doesn't for me. That's completely behind us. That being said, experience and maturity are the two biggest pieces to that, right? Taking away positive learnings when things aren't necessarily going our way, and making sure we apply them moving forward, and having that championship mentality. And that's what I really want to ensure we instill in our group, that we have the talent, we have to put the effort and the work in, and the positive results will come from that.
Just before we wrap up, junior lacrosse doesn't happen without the people behind the scenes. And on this podcast, we've like to give an opportunity for people to give shout outs to, the people that help behind the scenes, parents, volunteers, staff. Is there anybody on the Marauders organization that you'd like to give a shout out to for everything they've done throughout the season this season?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that opportunity. I mean, first and foremost, coaching staff, just always working hard to improve our team, always looking forward to the future. Mike Cameron and Turner Dirk working with the defensive side. I touched on Jacob Dunbar with the O side of things. Grayson Martins has been working with our goaltenders and has done a great job with them. And Donnie Haynes also, he's a really great technical mind in lacrosse, and it's been great to have him back on the bench. From that support piece, Steve Harlow works tirelessly for us. So, we wouldn't be where we are today without Steve. Our socials, I know you guys got a few shout outs there. Carlene Reese, she does a great job with our socials, and Amanda Thielen as well, one of our managers who, does a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And, just a shout out to the parents and families and friends in general. You don't get to a certain level in organizations without everybody's contribution. And, I know that our players appreciate it, and myself and the coaching staff and management appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out your social media team. There's two teams in junior lacrosse, one at tier 2 level and one at the tier 1 level, that I think do amazing social media. It's yourselves. You guys have really integrated clips with us. I appreciate that a lot. And then I don't know if you follow them on Twitter, but the T2 Chaos, I love their social media thing, because they do these little AI videos with Lego dudes. And I think there's a lot of, it's cool to see a lot of teams starting to invest a bit more in social media, realizing that is an important part of their growth. So definitely a huge shout out to your social media team there.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's such an opportunity for the league, and kudos to you guys as well for the work that you're doing. I don't know of any other league, probably in Canada, that's got the podcasts and whatnot happening. I know there are some other lacrosse pods out there, but we appreciate Carlene. She's really stepped up last year. Obviously, Amanda as well has done a lot of that, but it's great that they've taken that on. And, a little bit of fun. The kids love to see that stuff. And it's important when we're really talking about how we grow the game and, how you get those future junior lacrosse players coming out to games and really, loving the sport.
I appreciate those kind words. It's something I do state quite a bit, is like, not an absolute, but I do think that we provide probably the most free junior lacrosse in Canada here in Alberta. So it's something we take pride in, and it's something that we plan on never changing. So
well, and that's great. I can also speak to, family and friends that aren't able to attend games, or in, different provinces, or just out of the city in general. So it's a great opportunity for them to see the boys play.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us, Geoff. We appreciate your time today for sitting down with us and chatting a little bit of lacrosse.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, guys. Always happy to talk lacrosse, and hopefully we'll do it again down the road somewhere.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Geoff Thompson, head coach of the Okotoks Marauders.
All right. Thanks, Geoff Thompson, for joining us here on the podcast. I'd like to get some coaches on in the future for sure, especially come North Finals and South Finals. We'd like to get the coach of each team that advances to that playoff matchup on the show next 2 weeks from now. Would be for a North Finals and South Finals preview. Would like to get some information out east as we can. That playoff series out there is going to be Regina hosting the Swant in a best of 7. So that's fun. Best of 7 series there out east. That will be starting later on this month. The East Division round playoffs set to start. Best of 7 series between Friday, July 10th and Sunday, July 26th, if the full best of 7 needed. So yeah, those teams will definitely hate each other more than they already do if they're playing 7 games in like 14 days against each other. Kings will have home floor advantage, as it is impossible for the SWAT to jump them in the standings.
Well, let's take a look at our power rankings coming out of week 10. Not a whole lot of movement on your end, Eric, so I'll let you go first and then I can cover some of mine.
Yeah, so I had probably the most movement last week between us. This weekend, I only have the Outlaws jumping the Rampage. They were 10. Rampage were 9th. Outlaws were 10th last week for me. Now I have the Outlaws 9, Rampage 10. Outlaws, to be honest, for lack of a better word, dismantled this Rampage team last weekend at home. A 17-8 win for the Outlaws. Outlaws are a team, we'll talk about it next week in our playoff preview. They have to take on some definitely demons for them. They're 20 or 0-28 or something against the Rebels all time since becoming the Beaumont Outlaws. So definitely some demons for them going into the playoffs next week. But I think this team, to be honest, from like a week over week performance, has been one of the better teams in the second half at doing so. Has the biggest gap from where they were to where they are now. Having Marcus Hildebrand, Carter Mitchell, and Carter Grace all on the floor at the same time is something this Outlaws team hasn't had very often. And those are 3 good arms when they have it. So I did jump the Outlaws up in the standings over the Rampage. I still think I'd like to see more out of them before putting them over any of the South teams, but unfortunately, we're not going to get to see any more. We've ran out of runway in that aspect. But yeah, I have the Outlaws as my biggest riser this week, moving up 1 spot in my standings. Rest of the standings is, it's the same as it goes. I still have the Calgary Shamrocks first in my power rankings. No real reason to drop them as they went 2-0 this weekend with wins over the Mountaineers and the Mavericks. Close games, however, but something the Shamrocks have done all season long is find a way to win those close games. So nothing changes up in the top half of my standings in this one. Just everybody kind of beat who they should have last weekend in games. So kind of hard to, I don't have much movement. I know you do. So I'd like to hear your thoughts behind your rankings.
Well, I will start with the same kind of movement that you had. I do have the Outlaws jumping the Rampage. In my case, it's the Outlaws jumping the Rampage to go up to 8th and 9th, respectively. The only difference there, I think, between our numbers is the Silvertips. I have them below both the Outlaws and the Rampage, and that was just a hard string of games for the Silvertips for a period that had dropped them down earlier in my power rankings. Yeah, so I have the Outlaws jumping, and then it kind of stays stagnant up until the top 3. I'll be honest with you, Eric, this was not an easy decision for me to make, and I mulled over this for a little bit. I dropped the Okotoks Marauders from 1st to 3rd, as they're going to be the biggest loser this week. And the Shamrocks and the Chill both get bumped up a single spot. A lot of this has to do with the fact that the Chill beat the Marauders in that game in overtime. I mean, if you look at the box score of this game, it's really tough, right? Like, the Chill are leading for the majority of this game. The Marauders pop a couple to take the lead up 9-8. The Chill will pop another one to tie this game 9-9. And then the Chill will finish it off in overtime. And, I think the Marauders had a lot of momentum in that game. And I think the reason that I dropped them here by 2 is this was their game to lose. And they did. I think they not easily, I shouldn't say easily, but they had as good a chance as ever to beat the Chill there. And just the way in which they lost in overtime like that, I just can't help but drop them below the Chill at this point. I think the Chill have a lot of momentum their way, as I think it's 5 wins in a row now. Yeah, it's 5 wins in a row now, including the Mounties in there and the Marauders in there. So it's kind of hard, not to drop the Marauders as tight as that top 3 is. That's just the way that they fell.
For the Marauders, this game against the Chill, they lost 10-9. So finishing with under 10 goals for the first time since May 8th. You have to go all the way back to their 4th game of the season
Exactly.
to find a time where the Marauders scored less than 10 goals. So, that was my reasoning for not moving them. Not moving the chill above the Marauders. The Marauders have just been, they have such a longer, I guess, leash for me just because of how well their offense has done this season.
But that's
yeah,
the whole reason why I dropped them here, is that Marauders offense should be potting at least double digits on you at the same time.
They scored 9. That's
Yeah,
it's not like they scored
true.
4, but yeah, I understand I
Yeah.
understand it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my power rankings coming out of week 10. Well, now it's time to look at this week's Beast of the Week, and this one, a very strong Beast of the Week. Eric, who we got?
He's definitely been a Beast of the Week in the past. I don't know if he's been this season, but for the Shamrocks from the South Division, I picked Tyler Oj. And I did look over some performances from the East and the North, but Tyler Oj in 2 close games against tough competition, Southern Divisional opponents, had 3 goals in a 5-4 win over the Mounties on Friday, and then had 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points in a 10-9 win over the Mavericks on Sunday. So both very close wins that I think he had a big performance in to help the Shamrocks get those wins and move the needle. Would definitely like to get some, we hear you in the chat, we hear you in the comments saying, hey, why don't we get a defenseman or a defensive, like a backgate guy or a goalie here on the Beast of the Week? I think you have an honorable mention for a goaltender from the North.
Yeah, so this one, I know I called this game in the North, and it was an absolutely crazy effort, and I thought this could be the one where it was the Crude and the Chill on Saturday. That game at one point tied 7-7. The Chill would end up coming out and winning that game 13-7 after a late effort. Strong effort to take down the Crude, but for about 47 minutes of this one, Liam Capella, he is going to be the honorable mention because he kept the Crude in that game against a very strong Chill offense. And this is a Crude team that, I mean, as we've seen so far, sit 0-16 on the season so far. So yeah, honorable mention, Beast of the Week, Liam Capella of the St. Albert Crude.
Yeah, Calgary Chill going into St. Albert at the beginning of the weekend, having a very, very tough game against the Crude, and then finishing off their weekend by beating the Marauders in overtime is quite the roller coaster ride for that for that team.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Well, let's take a quick look at some of the games here on the network coming up this weekend. A bit of a bigger slate this weekend on the network itself, but we'll just take a look at the Junior B matchup. Sorry, as I was definitely unprepared at the current moment. So right now on the network, we're looking at, well, by the time that you're hearing this, already over will be the Beaumont Outlaws and Edmonton Warriors. Also coming up tonight here on the network, 8 p.m., the Crude visiting the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels, and the Crude and Outlaws will play each other on Sunday. Eric, I think that about does it for this week here on the Junior Beast. This is going to be one of the most exciting kind of finales to a season that we have seen in a very, very long time. Eric, where can people find you?
They could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kraus Eric. I'd also like to give a quick little shout out. If you have not checked our website at netfrontsports.com, go do so now. It has a lot more content. We're dabbling a little bit into hockey as we move into the offseason here. Me and Keenan are going to have more of an explanation about that in a future video. But you can now go on the website, find our power rankings on the website, or at least mine for this week. We'll get Keenan's up there next week. There's also a fancy little score ticker at the top that if I'm at my computer, I will update live. If I'm not at my computer, it will update as the game's finished. But you can go there. If the game is on the network, it has a fancy little watch button you can watch there. And then after the games are done, you'll have the scores and a link directly to the score sheet. So you can, we're trying to make the netfrontsports.com website kind of a hub for all things lacrosse. In the future, we'd like you to probably access our YouTube channel through this website instead of going directly to the YouTube channel. So that's the goal. Definitely, if you haven't checked out netfrontsports.com, do so now. Go head over to the shop page. The Calgary Bandits, Major Female Silver Tips, and the Southern Alberta Chaos all have merchandising agreements with us. You can go on that shop page, buy merchandise for those 3 teams, and then we share a profit, or we share the revenue with those teams. So it goes directly back into the teams as they navigate the junior lacrosse landscape.
And you can find me on all socials, Keenan_KM. That's KEENEN_KM. That's Instagram and Twitter. Well, we thank you so much for joining us here on the Junior Beast, and we'll see you next time on NetFront Sports for the Playoff Roundtable.
Oh, yeah.